I've had the PlayStation 5 for about a week now, so I thought I would point out some things that I think are better with the PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox Series S, and then some things that are better on the Xbox Series S. And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you which system I think right now, based on the user experience, not about games, based on user experience, is better. The first thing I want to point out are some advantages that the PlayStation 5 clearly has over the Xbox Series consoles. The first is the UI, and I'm not talking about the experience of the UI or the way that it's laid out. I'll get into that later on. I'm just talking about the fact that this UI is already in 4K HDR. So essentially, when you're looking at the UI, you're looking at a game. You launch the game, there is no fade to black on your TV, there is no pop on your TV to HDR, there is no difference in resolution between the UI and the game. It's very seamless and smooth. It feels next generation. With the Xbox Series S, the UI isn't in 4K or HDR, which is incredibly strange. Now, I think I read somewhere that they wanted developers to have more power for games, but there are some games on the PlayStation 5 that perform better than the Xbox Series S and X with the UI in 4K and HDR. So I'm not too sure about that one, but there's no denying that that definitely stands out. It's definitely something that I noticed right away and I thought was extremely cool compared to the Xbox Series S. This next one is a big one, and I am shocked that it hasn't been addressed yet on the Xbox Series consoles, and it's the ability to share. Now, I know there's a share button. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about streaming to Twitch or to YouTube. You press the share button at the bottom of the screen. Again, everything is baked into the UI. It's custom. You'll see screenshot, you'll see take a video, you can select the length of the video, or you'll see broadcast. Broadcast is baked right into the bottom of the UI. You hit it, you see Twitch, you see YouTube, you pick one. Again, you don't go to the separate Twitch app, you don't go to the separate YouTube app. It's baked right into the UI. You title your stream right there, and then you launch it. It's incredibly seamless, and it feels really good. Gotta be honest, it's almost embarrassing at this point that Microsoft hasn't fixed this on the Xbox Series consoles. In order to stream, you have to pause your game, go to your apps. Hopefully you have Twitch pinned to your apps because you can't stream directly to YouTube with Xbox. Open up the Twitch app, the actual Twitch app. It's not baked into the UI. So you go to a separate app, a separate screen, title your stream, launch it. When you launch it, you then have to back out of Twitch, go back to the pin of the game you were playing, which is suspended, open up the game, and then resume it. Then you are streaming on Twitch. It is a terrible solution to streaming. And when you compare it to what PlayStation was doing just last generation with the PS4, let alone this generation with the PS5, again, it is embarrassing that that's their solution to sharing and streaming. So the Xbox Series S definitely has advantages over the PlayStation 5 that I've noticed. Let's head back to the UI. On the PlayStation 5, the UI is left to right, much like the PlayStation 4. And the games that you have downloaded to your system appear there in a tile. Now, if you play a game and then you switch to another game and switch to another game, the tiles don't fully populate from left to right. So if you have, say, 5 or 6 games downloaded, you'll only see maybe 4 on the screen at one time. So you'll be sitting there thinking, where's the game that you own that you just downloaded? You have to scroll all the way over to the right library, open that up, and then you'll see every game. So you can't pin every game to the home screen at one time and see them all there. So if you have 10 games, 11 games, they're going to only show the games that you recently played. The rest will be hidden in the library. Whereas on the Xbox, you can pin everything to the home screen. So if I have 10 games, 11 games, 12 games, however many games I have, I can pin them all to the home screen, scroll down, there they all are visibly to me. I can adjust the size of the tiles. So that's definitely an advantage with the Xbox Series S UI. It just feels more intuitive. That's the word I'm going to use over and over again. The intuitive feeling of the user experience with the UI on the Xbox Series S is much more thought out. It's much simpler. It's much easier. Again, it's much more intuitive. So much in the same way that broadcasting on the PlayStation 5 is a big deal and Microsoft hasn't fixed it on the Xbox Series consoles, this is a huge advantage for Xbox Series S over the PlayStation 5, and that's just the save file system. So I'll give you an example. I purchased Atelier Ryza 2 on the PlayStation 4. I love the game. Check it out if you like action JRPGs. And I played quite a bit of it on the PlayStation 4. Bought the PlayStation 5. Downloaded Atelier Ryza 2 from my digital library to the PlayStation 5. Now, with the Xbox, every game that you own, whatever system you're playing it on, those save file systems just come over. There's nothing you have to do. You don't have to think about anything. Again, intuitive is the word we're going to use here. Simply just launch the game. It'll find the save file from the Xbox 360 era or the Xbox One era and download it to the game, and you can continue. With Atelier Ryza 2 on the PlayStation 5, I had to go into the settings. I had to go down to save file management. I had to access cloud saves from PlayStation 4, wait for it to find everything, select Atelier Ryza 2, download it to the PlayStation 5, back out, launch Atelier Ryza 2, and guess what happened? My save file didn't register. Now that hasn't happened a lot. There have been some games that I've done that for, and it's worked, like Ghost of Tsushima. However, the fact that I have to go through all of that to find save files for games that I own is, again, embarrassing, much in the same way that streaming on the Xbox hasn't been updated, and that's embarrassing. I think it's much bigger of a deal with save files for a game than it is for streaming to Twitch. Absolutely, absolutely a terrible experience when it comes to accessing save files for games on the PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox Series S. Now, this is something that's going to be, I don't want to use the word subjective because I don't think it is subjective when you compare the features. But in terms of feeling, I think you can say it's subjective, and that's the controller. Now, the controller on the PlayStation 5, hands down, technically is a better controller. There are much more features tied into the controller when you're playing games than on the Xbox Series S controller. The haptic feedback is a big deal, trust me. The construction of the controller, the way that it feels, I'll give you an example. In my hand, and I have big hands, I can squeeze this controller and it feels like it's sturdy and durable. The Xbox Series controller feels like a hunk of plastic that's hollow. You can actually hear creaks in it when you squeeze it. And there is a difference in build quality. I think the PlayStation 5 build quality is much better beyond just the haptic feedback and all the features tied into it. The microphone in the controller that you can actually stream without a headset and speak. That's a cool feature. It absolutely is. Now, it's not perfect, but it is a cool feature to have. There's a lot of things tied into the controller that are really, really cool. However, I will say that after using the PlayStation 5 controller for a while, going back to the Xbox Series S controller, I do like the additional features that they put into the controller beyond not having all of that extra tech in there. The way that it feels, the grip in the back, the things that they added to it. The big thing, again, is the offset sticks. Now, I'm not somebody who thinks it's that big of a deal to go from the PlayStation controller to the Xbox controller. You really get used to it. But I do think that it is comfortable. The offset sticks are much more comfortable than the PlayStation 5 sticks. But all in all, I do think that Microsoft should look into haptic feedback, because when I'm using the PlayStation 5 controller and, for instance, I'm doing things that in Astrobot, the game, you can actually feel the weight of something when you're holding it. There's this little mini game where it's almost like you're in this arcade and there are these little balls that pop out and you have a mechanical hand that holds them. When you pull that right trigger, you get that resistance and you have to pull tighter and tighter and tighter until you squeeze these balls and they break open. You can't get that experience anywhere else. And I think that beyond it just being a gimmick, you might say, okay, how many games are going to use that? It's still cool. It's still a next generation feature. They thought about the controller and they added new things to it. So why not utilize it? Why not enjoy it? But beyond that, I don't think that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S controllers are really a big point of contention. I do think the PlayStation 5 controller is better. It is the best controller this generation so far. And the only reason I say that is because of those extra features built into the controller. It's not just an upgraded PlayStation 4 controller the way that Microsoft did that. They added a share button, that was pretty much it. So you're getting extra features. You feel like you're getting more for your money besides just an updated controller. Now here's one that you might find strange, and that's just the overall look of the systems and the impact it has when you first see them. The Xbox Series S is the best looking Microsoft console ever. Now Sony with the PlayStation 5 took a bold approach, an in-your-face approach. It screams next generation, but I do love the minimalist approach of Xbox and the Xbox Series S. So for me, it's sort of a tie. I love looking at both of these systems. I think they both did a great job in terms of what they were going for in the design, but there's something about that Xbox Series S that I really like. So those are the things that I noticed. Let me know what you think in the comments section below about the things that you've noticed. If you liked the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.